Good morning. That wasn't quite the intro I was expecting.
Me neither. I wondered what happened. Thought we'd just been struck by lightning.
Well, it's so funny because we're actually in the middle of a storm here. To anyone that's watching, good morning. And good morning to you, Rick. Although it's afternoon where you are in beautiful Bali, we're actually in a major storm over here at the moment in Portugal. So if I'm looking a little bit baggy around the eyes, I didn't sleep very well, and it's 6:30 a.m. So
Understood. Well, you're not alone because we had massive flooding in Ubud.
oh,
As you know, we live halfway up the mountain and all that water
yeah.
has to go somewhere.
Wow.
And you'll remember our little shop.
Yes, is it okay? Uh-oh. The internet pixies are already playing havoc. Hello, I didn't hear that. I remember you
I'm
saying
back.
you remember our shop, and I thought, uh-oh.
Yes. Well, there was about that sort of at the convergence of a bit of a valley. And there was about half a meter of water all poured through there. So, some pretty heavy flooding that went down the hill from us.
Wow.
Fortunately, being in the mountains, we have an incredible fast runoff, so we're never affected by flooding, but that water has to go somewhere. So
Yeah.
we did send a little bit of it to Portugal, so sorry about that.
That's okay. So from a wet Portugal to wherever you are in the world, how are you all this morning? Or afternoon, if you're in Indonesia like Rick. So we're going to talk about energy fields, and it's so funny that I'm actually feeling like I'm clean out of energy. So do you want to tell me where I'm going wrong, Rick? Where should we start?
Well, yeah, let's start by saying there are no right or wrongs. Right? There is just is. It is as it is.
Yeah.
But more seriously, Einstein said everything was energy. He didn't say some things were energy and some things were not. Everything is energy.
Yeah.
Therefore, our bodies are made up of energy. The clouds are made up. The lights and the devices we're looking at, when we put them under the microscope, we will see that there's just a field of energy or a field of essence that runs through everything. So when we let's talk about energy fields, we're really talking about, ultimately, there is only one energy field that runs through everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it manifests as different things: a physical body, a light, a book, a car, whatever it is. So what's the importance of them is that if we are made of energy, then we should be maintaining a frequency that is conducive to our life. And what I mean by that is that energy vibrates at
Yeah.
certain levels. So if I take this bottle, it's very solid.
Yep.
You can hear that. That means that it is vibrating at a lower level. But if I was to take, I don't have any right now, but if I was to take a stick of incense and light it, there would be this gossamer thin wave of smoke coming from it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as solid, and therefore it is vibrating at a higher frequency. That is means that how many waves per minute or second or whatever they're measured in. Now then we get to the higher frequencies, the even higher ones. For instance, if you look around you now, you're connected to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Where are those signals? Where are they? We don't see them.
No.
And all the television signals, all the radio signals, but just because we don't see them doesn't mean to say they're not there. So they are vibrating at a much higher frequency. So there's the band of frequency. We can sense and utilize different frequencies, but we may not be able to see them. And perhaps a good analogy is a dog whistle, because a dog has a different spectrum of hearing, higher vibrationals than ones that we feel and sense and listen to. So, and then whales and a lot of marine creatures vibrate at a much lower beyond our spectrum. We hear some of it, but not all of it. So that's a good analogy. Just because we don't see something or hear something, it doesn't mean to say it's not present.
Yeah.
But that's the starting point.
And we're frequency detecting machines, aren't we? Even though we don't notice it. Obviously, we're receiving frequency via our eyes, through our ears, and also feeling it
Yes.
through our hearts. I mean, there's lots of people. I mean, I count myself as one of them, who have clairsentience, or clairaudience, or clairvoyance, which is like light seeing, light hearing, light feeling, where you're perceiving energetics, presumably. That's my understanding, but I don't claim to have any scientific background on that. Definitely not at 6:30 a.m. So go on.
I also have that clair sensing. I can sense a chocolate eclair a mile away.
Yeah, actually, my kids can too. So, in terms, I really liked your description. That maybe something of glass is of a much slower frequency, hence everything is more solid, and that incense is maybe higher vibration. One of the things, I'm in touch with somebody who is a breatharian. Actually, her term for it is that she's on the pranic path, and so she just doesn't eat. She eats very, very occasionally. Like if a small child says, "Here, try this," she doesn't want to offend the child, and she wants to sort of engage with. So she only eats really if it's to engage with other people. And when she does it, she's tasting the vibration rather than actually sort of tasting the food. And she does the same with water sometimes. I mean, she doesn't have water either, just only very occasionally. And I've interviewed her and been quite fascinated by her, actually. And she, in some videos and photos that she's taken, there's actually been kind of like half her body missing. Like in one of her photos, her arm is dematerialized, and another, like half her torso is gone on one side. And she has all these kind of weird representations of herself, by our sort of photographic standards. But she's at a much lighter vibration, quite simply. And seeing it's like, whoa. But you don't hear very much about people like that.
Yeah. Well, I had my own experience, and I think you know that.
Yeah.
I went for 23 days without food and 7 days and 7 nights without any water. And a doctor will normally tell you after 3 days you'll die. It's simply not true.
Yeah,
But
it's
what
not.
I was living on prana, which is the Indian version of the word, chi energy, which is Chinese, or life force energy, sometimes termed 0 point energy. So it is possible to convert those energies into nutrition for the body. In fact, nutrition for the 4 bodies: the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. And the woman whose protocol I followed has gone, I think she's gone 25 years now without food, without water or food. So it can be done.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it to become a breatharian. I did it to just prove to myself and seek the truth for myself as to what we've been told. So that is living on a energy source that we can't see. So it's all there. Lots of things that the unseen and the seen, and we tend to use the iceberg principle that we can see the top of the iceberg, but the bulk of it is below the water, unseen.
Yeah, definitely. I can see we've got a few people watching, and I'd love to say what are your experiences of energy and playing with energy and interacting with energy. Let us know in the chat room. I'd love to hear from you. It's funny. One of the things that, well, first of all, I want to acknowledge you for going without food and water for that long. I do aim to do it, and I think I won't be able to do it until I've stopped breastfeeding finally. But I absolutely suspect that is the way I'll go, because lots of people who are worried about being human beings and being consumptive beings, they often worry about, well, how is it that we come here to do harm? Like, we, by our very nature and our very existence and our consumption, things get destroyed, and it feels quite uncomfortable for me. That said, when I was talking to my breatharian or pranic path following friend, she also shared with me one of the reasons why she thinks a lot of energy workers put on weight quite rapidly when they do channeling. And this is definitely something that I've noticed a lot as my own astrology work has changed quite considerably. Now I just look at the chart and I get drawn in, and whew, like there's this like intel comes in, and so it's like maybe like a third astrology, and the rest is just like what's coming through. And she said what people don't realize is when they're connected intuitively, they're being fed by life force, and then they still have the same habits of eating, and they don't realize that actually you don't need both of them. And I was really kind of fascinated by that. And also she was able to say, I mean, she said there's very few nights when she sleeps more than 2 hours. Sometimes she's up all night, and she can do that very, very easily because there's absolutely nothing interfering with her energy field at all. It's like there's no resistance, and it's the resistance that makes us all tired. But she says, oh yeah, I can easily knit a jumper in an evening, or I can do a full oil painting in an evening. And it's she writes prolifically because she just hasn't tired out her system. That said, she also chooses to live alone, and I'm guessing there are costs to each way of life. But being so open and to connect so fully with a field, it's very easy to get distracted by the people around you. So she also keeps her actual fields of energy very, very pure around her, which I totally understand.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel very uncosmic raising 3 children. As much as I love my children, I love my husband, I don't feel like I get much time to switch off and tune into the energetics around me. I feel very grounded as opposed to etheric, and how I used to feel prior to really connecting with the family.
Sure. Sure. Well, when I finished my process, I went back to my light vegetarian diet because I do enjoy the socialization
Yeah,
around the family.
yeah,
Raising 2 young teenage girls, it wouldn't be much fun if I'm just sitting there, not
yeah.
even with a plate in front of me or a knife or fork or a glass of water. And
Mm,
so I hadn't intended to be a breatharian,
yeah,
but I returned back to my light vegetarian diet, and I've stuck with that. And most times I would have one major meal a day with maybe a little bit of fruit or something in the afternoon.
yeah.
And so when you think about it, there's an awful lot of energy that is surrounded the subject of food.
Mm,
And if you're a mum, yours is much more. You have to think about what to buy at the supermarket or wherever, what you're going to grow, take it home, try put it in the fridge or the pantry, and then prepare
yeah,
it, and
yeah,
then we have to digest it. Where something like 70% of our body's energy
yeah,
goes towards digesting food. And if
yeah,
we're digesting a big meal at night, where our body is not able to renew and regenerate itself. So it's a big topic. And of course, the Chinese have been saying you are what you eat, and not only the Chinese, others have said that before them.
yeah,
So that topic is fascinating, and of course, it's a personal preference, but
mm,
very worthwhile exploring
mm,
as to the value of what is the quality of the food I'm putting into this body,
mm,
and am I maintaining it with lots of water,
mm.
um, and so on and so forth. Because I can tell you, after my 23 days, I felt absolutely extraordinary.
So
Lighter, more focused,
yeah.
more presence, and more present in presence, if you
Mm,
get what I mean. So it was an incredibly uplifting uh, finale for me. And after 2 days, I never felt hungry at all. The
wow.
body with its intelligence knew there was no food coming.
Mm,
So it had to run on prana from that point.
mm,
And, on a global scale, look how many people are starving to death. How many kids starve in Africa and places like that
mm,
through no food? We,
mm,
we could alleviate a lot of those needless deaths. One, by being more compassionate and spending money on life rather than spending money on trying to exterminate life.
mm,
Um, but the other is just if people could practice breatharianism, or not necessarily full-blown breatharian, but to be able to survive extremely well on
mm,
a very limited diet. Uh,
mm.
but breatharian could save a lot of lives.
It's interesting you say that because you said there's a lot of people starving because of lack of food, and yet at the same time said, actually, we don't need food to survive because we realise that you can be a breatharian. Would you say it's just the point of view that kills us? So um, like if you knew you didn't need to eat and you could survive without eating and drinking, I think you would be more prepared for it than if you were told if you don't eat and drink, you're going to die, and you've got 3 days to live. Um,
Yeah.
do you think it's as simple as that? It's like what you are believing becomes your reality.
I think there's a very large portion of that, but also the reality is that um, if you're fixated on what you've been told that 3 days without water is going to kill you, that's
Mm,
a belief system. It's a limiting belief system, but it's a belief
yeah,
system all the same. And of course, that would put you immediately into fear.
yeah,
Right? So now you've dragged fear is a much lower vibrational frequency
mm,
than love or kindness and compassion and
mm,
caring, sharing. So we would immediately be drawn into this lower vibrational frequency, which would make us more solid, right?
mm,
And the solidity of being in that area would mean that we are more conducive to the start, change, and stop cycle,
yeah,
birth, growth, and death. Because we're
mhm,
now thinking, I'm just a meat body. There's
mm,
nothing else there. Right? As we grow our awareness, we realize that we are much more than just a meat body,
mm,
much more than our thoughts and our emotions and our life story. That we are sovereign beings, and when we, pardon me, when we're sitting in that state, which is a very high vibrational frequency, we tend to be a lot of lower level vibrational frequency problems and
mhm,
challenges that we're faced with. So that becomes, now we're talking about thoughts. What are the
yeah,
quality of our thoughts? Are they high vibrational, kind, joyful, happy thoughts? Or are they miserable, blame, shame, and regret?
yeah,
So this energy is rampant through everything.
mm,
We are energy. We are the energy that we are sitting in and surrounded by. And so it's really important that we maintain the highest possible vibrational frequencies we can
mm,
in order to weather the storms that the world dishes out to us.
yeah,
The fear, the fear propaganda, the fear of death, the fear of poverty, the fear of being left alone, the fear of never having a relationship. All of those things are at such a low vibrational frequency that we will create that reality. We are
yeah,
now creating a reality that is in line and in perfect alignment with our thought process.
mm,
So if we change our thoughts and uplifting ones, then we're now equipped with the ability to transcend the ego and to transcend the challenges and rise above the obstacles and barriers that might be in our way. Makes
mm.
perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that makes perfect sense to me as well. I mean, one of the things I've learnt over the last few years is that not every woman has a menopause. Now, what we've been told in the Western world is that, yes, it's definite, and every woman menopauses at some point. You know, that they come to the end of their fertility. It's a done deal. And yet, I have a couple of friends who are connected very deeply into African societies and also Asian ones who say that's not true. Women can menstruate right the way through to the end of their lives, and it's
Mm.
lifestyle. And I think also a good portion of it is our belief patterns. You know, if we believe that this is always going to stop around about 50, then that's your belief system.
Yes.
Whereas there are women having babies into their 60s and 70s in Africa. So, yeah, that was a bit of a shocker to me.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
And of course, what you
could you imagine if people weren't in a rush to raise children? You know, if they
yes,
actually realised they could live much longer than they've been told, they would actually
yes,
learn about themselves and learn about how they can contribute, and there would be a completely different set point for society, I think.
yes, yes, indeed. So what you were describing very aptly was the placebo effect, right?
Yeah,
And that is one patient gets a sugar pill and the other patient gets a medicinal pharmaceutical pill,
yeah,
and both patients survive the debilitating illness that they had. Why?
mm,
Because both believed that this pill will save my life,
yeah,
even though it was a sugar pill.
yes.
We have to watch the quality of our thoughts and choose the good ones.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
I mean, I heard that I can't. I heard it from Carl, but I know for sure it wasn't from him. But there was a saying: doctoring and medicine is just a form of distraction to keep the patient amused while the body heals itself. And I
mm,
thought, oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't say that to a doctor necessarily, or a nurse, or somebody who absolutely believes in their treatment. And I wouldn't
yeah,
refuse treatment if I was in an accident or something. But in terms of wellness, I'd much rather follow people that I see are living really healthy lives. You know, you can tell if somebody's well or not because their energy just radiates it, doesn't it? Um, so where should we go in the energetic chat now, Rick?
well, if we look at it, the Heart Math Institute, which is doing probably are the avant-garde institution about the heart and the head and the mind and all of that, how it correlates. They talk about a toroidal, a torus-shaped energy field around our heart that can be measured and can be felt.
Mm,
And there's another one around our body. There's
yeah.
another one around the Earth, North and South Pole, Milky Way galaxy. I think we talked about this in the past.
Mm,
So these energy bodies, of course, we've got this physical body which is made of energy.
hmm
We don't see the emotional body. We see the reactions or responses of the emotions, but we don't see this body because it's clothed outside of the physical body.
mm,
And then beyond that is the mental body. So the mental body permeates through the emotional bodies, triggers emotions, and then can get stuck into the physical body.
mm,
So all of this is energy.
yeah.
Everything is energy. And when we start seeing it as energy, um, and looking through the facade,
Mm,
we can see into a tree and see the energy core of it. We can
mm,
look at a bird or an animal and see the energy that is animating this creature.
mm,
And we can look at a building or a piece of writing and sense the energy of the author
mm,
or the artist or the painter, whatever it is. It's
yeah.
just looking deeper within, and recognizing our own energy makeup and then seeing that in others. And then when we start to realize, hey, we are all sharing this same field of energy. We
Mm,
are all this energy.
mm,
Why are we fighting each other? Why are we squabbling and arguing if we're
Yeah.
from the same source of energy and
Yeah.
are it? You know?
Yeah.
So once we start realizing that, we will start treating the environment differently. We'll start treating each other differently. We will transcend the fear and start to be united and collaborative and cooperative with each other. So this is an incredibly basic but profoundly important step, is to embrace the energy that we are, the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual energy.
Yeah, that really resonates on so many levels, Rick. Thank you. One of the things I noticed the most when I was pregnant was just the shift in energy straight away. I'd been vegetarian for years, and I was so lightheaded early on, and my body was craving meat for the first time in years and years and years and years, and it was crazy because I just felt like I was being taken out of my body. With I didn't actually know at the time I was pregnant, but the moment I had meat, I felt back in my body again. I felt very grounded. If I could have smoked and drunk coffee and had red wine all the way through it, I would have done too. It was like it's almost like I needed, weighted ankle bracelets around my feet to hold me onto the ground. I felt like I was going to float away. But there is this very sort of strange sensation of carrying a child. If you're aware of energy, that is a very strange sensation because your energy fields are together. There's nothing separating you. There's a body growing inside you, but there is this sense of it is you as well. And when I've given birth, each time, the baby still feels like they're part of the energy field for months, many months. I always wore my children. I know you've been wearing babies, haven't you? I mean, that sounds awful,
Yes.
but the first time I met you, you had one of your children strapped to you when you're girls in a sling. Like when they connect through the breast, early on with each birth, I felt myself being pulled out of my body. I felt like I was floating away again. The connection between us was so pure. A bit like, and I'm sure you'll relate to this, is when you're making love. So fully, you get to a stage where you don't know where your body ends and the other body begins.
Yes.
And so in absolute pure intimacy, I think we can forget who we are, and our bodies kind of adapt and mold around each other. That's my sensation anyway. The other thing I noticed very much in giving birth is I made noises I couldn't make before. People talk about cows mooing and all sorts of different sounds that a birthing mum makes, but this sound came from within me, and my sensation was that my baby, like that, my womb was like a portal. That's the sensation I had throughout my pregnancy, is that my womb was like I had the whole of the universe in my womb, which sounds a bit greedy, but to me, I just feel like us women have these doors. We can open them up and boom, there's the universe, and you kind of put your hand in and see what comes out, and there's this baby. We have this kind of connection, and so when I went into labour, I became aware of the sound that I was making, and I felt that it was creating a portal, like a birthing portal. I couldn't replicate that sound from even if I tried. It was a sound that I'd never known before, but my body knew to make. And it opened me up very quickly. And, I've had 3 very easy labours. I've been very fortunate. But I think there is this innate knowledge within us. And we've been taught otherwise. We've been taught that it's your breathing that does it, and it's this that does it, and it's the drugs that do it. But my experience was, yes, breath work, but sound, which of course is a frequency.
It
The
is.
doorways and portals between everything. And I never really knew that until I was wanting to become pregnant, when I was pregnant and birthing, and then thereafter for many months, years even.
Beautiful. What a gift you are to women,
Oh,
womanhood, really, because this is so rarely expressed. We know that many women with a natural birth, I'm not talking about a cesarean, I'm not
yeah.
anti-cesarean because I think
No,
sometimes
they can save
out of
lives.
medical emergency it's necessary.
Yeah.
But if we can go through the natural birthing process, it's not unusual for the brain to secrete DMT, which
Yeah.
is like a drug, like a consciousness altering drug.
Mm,
So, and then of course, cymatics will tell us that we owe our entire existence to sound.
yeah.
And this is why singing and chanting and oming, all of these have been used. The sounds of drumming, the sounds of music, the sounds of birds, the sound of water. This is
Mm,
all amazing therapy.
yeah.
So to be able to chant your children into existence or into the outside world is
Yes.
pretty phenomenal. And I think, that would be an element, if it hasn't been done already, to
Mm,
be able to find a resonant chant that a woman, obviously they wouldn't have the same, but what is the sound frequency and the sound that resonates with you, even if you're listening to it, the
yeah.
sound of water or waves crashing or rain on a tin roof, what
Mm,
it is. But if you can emanate it from inside, and now that child is being brought on a wave of sound vibrational frequency,
mm.
which could change the birthing process enormously. I, I'm just in my head at the moment. I don't know if there are birthing clinics about that use specifically the mother's sound to help with the birthing process and the healing afterwards. But that would be a
Mm.
good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think we've got to say hello to all the dads as well and recognize them, because you also have a sound vibration. Funny enough, here's a fantastic human being, Owen Lloyd Martin, who's been listening to this. He's saying, "Good morning, Louisa and Rick. Much love to you both."
And love
Likewise,
back.
my brother. Thank you for joining us. Um, yeah, I think we call each other into existence. I mean, before our babies came about, Carl and I invited them in. We said, "We feel you. We know you're there. We're ready. Come when you're ready." And so
Mm,
that invitation was given, and yes, it came out of our voices, but the intention, the energetic, would have been around us. Um,
yes, yes,
and you can see this many times. I'm sure you have the same experience where you meet people and you think, yeah, there's a baby on its way. Like even before they're pregnant, you know if someone is transitioning into that space, you can sense it. There is something about somebody as they're getting ready for that time. Or I see it anyway. I'm sure I just assumed everyone could do it, but I'm sure you would pick up on that, right?
yes, yes. And, and still on the same subject, we know that the sound, the musical scale was distorted, I think
Yeah,
in the 1930s sometime,
yeah,
and it was made into 440, a
yeah,
440 beat, which we
yes,
have assimilated and think, that's normal, but it's
yeah.
not.
It's not.
432 is the correct vibrational frequency,
Yeah,
and we're now discovering the different hertz of sound
mm,
that is the correct resonant, and that music
yeah.
sounds very, very different.
It sounds very
Before
rich, doesn't
it does, it's very rich and very deep and full.
it? Mm,
440, I liken it to describe it as being in front as a orchestra leader,
mm,
sitting in or standing in front of an orchestra, and one of the violins is off tune,
yeah.
so that the entirety of that collective sound is being distorted. And that's
Mm,
what the 440 beat has given us. So anybody that's interested, really do a little bit of a Google on the vibrational frequencies, the high vibrational frequencies of sound,
Yeah.
and you'll see there's a whole structure of vibrational sounds that are incredibly uplifting, and they're
Yeah.
being used a lot more now. There are recording artists that are using higher
Mm.
vibrational frequency sounds
Yeah.
because they will resonate with the listener. Uh,
Yeah.
nature doesn't distort it.
No, and it's funny. I absolutely like agree with you, and artists such as like Deva Premal, who I'm sure you know. You've probably met her actually, probably at some point. But you know, like they've her and Mitten, they've been doing their music in 432 for I think decades now.
Yes, yes,
Um, you know, and so there are lots of spiritual artists that refuse to use 440 because they realize it's just not. And when you look at the cymatic prints, or you know, like the resonance, like when Rick and I are talking about cymatics, I know you'll know this, Owen. If you were to put sound on one of these sand on a sound plate, is that what they're called? And then you
yes,
can tune up or down, like turn it up or down the frequencies, and these beautiful patterns emerge, representing the vibration of the frequency. And so when you go to 444, it's very discordant. It's not a nice pattern. A bit like Masaru Emoto's water frequency experiments, where words were captured within the water, and you know the molecules of water just look different, don't they? You know, when there's a beautiful vibration or an energy, then you have these beautiful snowflakes. And when you've got something really ugly like hate or evil or I'm going to kill you or horrible phrases and intentions energetically, then something really sick and diseased is captured within the water. So, you know, we've got water, we've got sound. I noticed it in numbers. That, you know, in fact, I was watching a YouTube yesterday about like the magic of numbers, which I'm sure you've seen before as well. Just looking at the perfection of numbers and how numbers resonate, and of course that comes up in my astrological practice. You know, when I'm
hmm
looking at the balance of shapes, they almost look like portals or cymatic images. There are snapshots of frequency.
yes, yes. And we're talking about the Fibonacci sequence,
Mm,
which appears if you look at the ear, you look at the face, if you look at a
yeah,
fern unfolding, it's replicated. If you look at a nautilus shell, it has
yes,
the Fibonacci sequence in it. So this is the energetic imprint that we're talking about now, and it manifests as sound, as visually, all sorts of things. And I just wanted to play you this. So I won't get it too
oh,
close to the mic. This is how I got up this morning, or what I got up to. It was before daybreak.
yeah. What you might not realize, actually, is we've been hearing that all the way through this video. There are some
Really?
days, yeah, yes, your mic really picks up all the sound. So we've been listening to that sound all the way through, and that's the sound of the cicadas and insects, and it's like the whole of life in Bali, right?
Yeah. Well, I better behave myself. I better not pass wind then if you can hear all of
Yeah, it's a frequency I don't want to receive over here. Thank you.
that.
You
Yeah,
vegetarian.
but
Oh my god. Woohoo.
so yeah, this is the sound that accompanies my day virtually
Yeah,
every day. And if
yeah.
it's raining, then we've got the sound of rain
Mm,
and the water dripping off the bamboo leaves, and then the
yes,
visuals of it, the light shining through the
yeah.
droplets of water. And this is what I'm teaching our kids now, to be very aware of what you're observing and seeing the little innuendos that's within it, not just, oh, that leaf looks nice, but look
Mm,
at the framework behind it and look within it.
yeah.
And this now gets me to the subject which Native American Indians are very, very adept at, and that is seeing the spirit in everything.
Mm.
So seeing beyond the physicality and seeing the spirit of the wolf and the spirit of the mountains and the spirit of the river. And this has been written about, Herman Hesse, Siddhartha. His book is about the river and the spirit of the river. And I find myself, that's what I look for in everything. Doesn't matter how tangible it is. I want to see the spirit that lies underneath it. Call it spirit, call it energy, call it whatever label we want to put on it. But when we can sense and feel that, and especially in living organisms, there's an extraordinary opportunity to connect with that and to be one with it, right? So it's we're talking about energy that pervades in everything and of everything. Just so beautiful.
Yes, it truly is. It really is. I realise actually babies, newborns are very much like that. They pick up on everything. I've experienced with all three of mine that and I've seen it in countless other babies, is that they're just like this, aren't they? When they come out, looking around, they see everything. I mean, I used to see auras as a child and be able to feel them. And it was interesting when you described the toroidal field, around everyone, and that there's layers. As a kid, I used to sort of zone in and offer like healing to my parents and anyone, plants in particular. But I would feel layers of energy, and you can go closer, and then you feel like something pushing back against you. But I think babies see all of these energetic fields. And it's only over time that they learn to see in the way that we do. Well, obviously we don't actually know what they're seeing. But the other thing I notice with babies is when they go off to sleep, you could be forgiven for thinking your baby's actually died, because a lot of them, it's almost like they're in and out of consciousness, like in this world and out of this world. And I've noticed this with people at their end of their life, in particular people in hospices and stuff, that they appear to be in two rounds at the same time, not fully grounded, like they're already on their way. And some of them may know it and some of them might not. But with these children coming in, these babies, I think they do know. They're, because sometimes I noticed that they look really peed off when they realised they were back here. They're these loving parents looking at them, and at some point they were like, oh, "Not again."
I meant to turn left at Pluto and finished up on Earth.
Yeah. Oh God, not another incarnation here.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Well, I have a beautiful photograph in India. I was at the Oneness University, and I have a photograph with this gigantic, beautifully formed orb, which is, since we've got digital cameras, and the naysayers would say, oh, that's just water or moisture on the lens. No, it's not. But I've got this photograph of these. It was just the guys being photographed, and it was this beautiful orb. Notice with our twins is that when I had them in my arms, their eyes would be darting backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And I know they were watching these orbs. And orbs, again, are just energy vibrating at a very high frequency. So when their children, I think up to about 18 months, are in a state of oneness. We haven't taught them duality. We haven't taught them left and right, good and bad, hot and cold. They're just seeing just the one of everything.
Yeah.
And when we're in our different sleep patterns, the deepest sleep pattern is when the mind and the body disappears and there is just oneness. And one can experience that. And I've had that on more than one occasion, to actually be conscious of the consciousness that is there, or being aware of the awareness that is there, being aware of a state of oneness and being able to experience it to a certain degree. And one could say that, oh, you're just dreaming or whatever, but we come through the different levels to the waking state, and we're now further away from that state, that true nature of ourselves, which is oneness. And that's just why sleep deprivation is so damaging to us, because we don't get to top up on that. People that don't sleep well for weeks and weeks on end or years are deprived of that sort of nightly top up. So it's really important to not only with our food and the energy of our food, but to be able to train ourselves to be able to get into a deep sleep and have a top up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you mentioned orbs, because I realised that about 3 weeks before I met Carl, there was a photo of my mum and I by Christmas, near a Christmas tree, and I'd been back from Bali for about a couple of months, so it's 12 years ago, and there's this picture of us both, and it looks like I'm in a dust cloud. I'm not. I was stood next to my mum, but there was about 40 or 50 orbs all around me, and there were like none around my mum. They were all around me, in particular, like from here down to my knees. It was like they were all around my body. Something really big was happening, and it's as if there was some celebration or knowing that within a year I was going to meet the man of my dreams and have my first conceive and give birth, because we didn't hang around. But I was amazed when I looked at it. Like, at first we just looked at this photo and thought, that's a really strange quality of photo. But then as you zoomed in on a camera, you could clearly see orbs, and a couple of them, it almost looked like there were faces within the orbs. But there was definitely this kind of sensation of fizziness or something. My energetics were changing at some level, or the energetics around me were changing and preparing me. I guess I'll never know until I'm fully out of this body and the veils of separation and forgetfulness disappear.
Yes.
There are some intrinsic truths.
Indeed. And very often you'll find orbs in nature settings, with particularly if it's pristine woods. Very often if you take a photograph of that, orbs will be around in that area, but they're definitely about.
What do you think orbs are? Like conscious beings?
I don't know if they are. They appear to be individuated, but they are of the same essence, so they're not separate. I don't know if they're a fully formed being that is ready to take on a human body, or whether they are a fragment of this energy that is in nature, and it's a fragment of very high vibrational frequency energy. So I don't know the answer. Could that go into a body and animate it? I really don't know.
Wow, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, it's possible, I guess. I mean, if you look at an apparition, a so-called ghost, they are disembodied beings that are not in a physical structure, so they are following the shape of the physical body, albeit very blurry and very misty and not very well defined usually, whereas an orb is most certainly sphere-like. And I've blown up a couple of photographs, especially this one in India, and it looked like a mandala, an incredibly colorful mandala. Yeah, beautiful colors. So maybe it's a being that's never been in a physical body, or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'd have a lot of attention on. I just admire them very much. But there's a lot that is not known about them. And of course, there's a lot of speculation of what it could be and subjectiveness about it. So what we can do is feel it. We can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered if orbs were like little windows into our realm, like little people having a little or energy sort of peeking in to see what's going on here. It almost feels like they're little doorways to me to another place. Um, but yeah, I wonder if Owen's picked up on them. Owen, you take a lot of great photography. I'd love to know if you've got orbs captured somewhere, or even apparitions, or just like strange things that's captured in your photos. There's something quite magical, and sometimes our eyes can't see it all, can they? So a bit like
Mm,
Curly photography. It was great to have Curly in photography and have a look at my aura. I'd love to have a look at how it's changed now, and
yes.
also see what it's like, when you're pregnant. That would be really quite amazing. Um,
Mm.
well, I
I,
feel. Go on. What were you going to
I've
say?
just you're coming back to pregnancy again. Um,
Sorry,
I've,
I'm
I've,
not. I'm
I've,
not. Just to let you know, I'm
I'm,
definitely
I'm fascinated, and I wrote a blog some years ago, um, and I was just being totally honest with me and myself, and I have done this on more than one occasion. I've seen a pregnant woman and felt the energy. Right, they may feel ragged and unwieldy and ugly and all of the things that go through the mind. But when I look at this energy, and I've gone up to them and say, ma'am, I need to tell you something. You look and feel absolutely stunning. I have no
not.
ulterior motive. I've no evil intent. I just want to let you know, and I'm not just, it's not BS. You are glowing. Right?
Mm.
And I've done that to quite a few women. And my wife's got used to me dashing off at a supermarket. And so I think some women may think I'm this weird pregnancy woman stalker, but in fact it's done just very spontaneously, and I've just felt and seen this energy,
Mm.
and it's taken my breath away enough to want to go up and say,
Yeah.
you look amazing. You look amazing. And then inevitably I got a barrage. Oh, I can't wait to get rid of this baby, or blah blah blah. Right? I said, no, just enjoy what you're enjoying now, because it's stunning. So
It really is. It's one of those most incredible experiences I've ever had. And yes, we do want to rush out and have our baby outside of ourselves so we know that they're okay. And then my instinct when all three of them have come out is I want to put them back in because I want to keep them safe. So they never quite feel safe wherever they are. You're always like, if I can't see them, are they safe? But yes, they're inside me. And then they're outside in the world. You can see them, they're safe, but then now they're in their outside world. Oh, what a conundrum. Owen is saying, I'm sure I'll have a few. I'll be taking a look later on. So I have a feeling Owen's going to have a looky loo through all his photos and see if he's got
mm,
something interesting for our eyes. Because a lot of the time, I think it's right in our faces, and we just don't necessarily see it because we're not looking for it. But then when you do
yes,
look back, you're like, whoa, hang on a sec. What's going on here? Anyway,
indeed.
I've really enjoyed this. It's been very
Me
light-hearted.
too. Me too.
Yeah, I'd totally forgotten about that orb-soaked photo of me from years ago. I'll see if I can find it. But it's really brought up lots of extra bits and pieces that you take these things for granted, and we forget about them. And I think it's magical when you can stay in the true magic of the energy of life. I think that's
Yeah,
really beautiful. It's a real gift.
beautiful.
Thank you.
I'll send you my photo, and if you want to post it to everybody, you're most welcome to. But
Yeah.
just to finish off, um, there's many reasons why I enjoy these conversations, usually on a weekly basis, but I find them just so uplifting. My energy feels uplifted. Your smile, your questions, the lightness of this, it's just a beautiful energy that is created and supported by your listeners and viewers. And so
Oh.
it's priceless. It's very special for me. So this
Well,
is all to do with energy.
Yeah, well, bless you for saying that, because there's not much that would get me out of bed at 5:30 once a week to like sharing energy. Owen saying, what a great way to start this day. Thank you both. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I can see we have people watching, and not everyone is feeling, like they want to chat, but I love that you've joined us, Owen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you once again, Rick. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Indeed.
Wherever that takes us.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know until usually the day before.
Yeah. We just like feel into it and see what's coming up.
Yeah.
I love that. All right.
Me
Well,
too.
thank you wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today. Hope to connect again with you soon. If you do have any requests, then please do let us know. You can reach Rick, info@rickpursell.com. Is that right?
That's it. That's right.
And it's Louisa @gmail.com. Anyway, lots of love to you all, wherever you are in the world. Mwah.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye for now.